Hello, lettering friends. It's Kristen here, and I want to come on and share this lettering generator that my friends over at Lovely Loops created. I think this is just the neatest idea. I've not seen anything done like this before. I have seen where you can generate quotes to letter if you need ideas for prompts, but they've gone further and have included, what kind of pen to use, what colors to use, what style to use, if you should add little accents to it when you're finished. And I thought this was amazing. So I'm gonna walk you through really quick, like how I would use this. And also what's really neat about this is I already took a screenshot of this. So this is the one that I'm actually going to do. But let's say you don't want spring colors because right now we're in summer. So you can tap for a new palette and get different ideas that might, fit here. So here's summer colors. And for example, let's say this faux calligraphy came up as a pen to use. But if you don't know how to do faux calligraphy, you can tap on new pen and then it gives you another idea. So you can use a pencil for pencilligraphy, a Crayola marker, a gel pen. And of course, as with anything, you could also do this analog with paper and markers, or you can do it the way I do it, which is in Procreate. So let's head over to Procreate. And I've already took a screenshot of the prompt generator. And then in my layers, I've gone and added, I already picked out some colors for a spring palette. I may or may not use all of these. I'm gonna only use like one or two of them. And then also, let me turn off that layer. I went ahead and just kind of sketched out some ideas, which I always do before I actually just start lettering. And I like so many of these, but I think just for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm gonna go with just a really simple one. So let me hide that layer. And I'm actually going to keep my colors on here so they're easy to pick from. And I always like to turn, if I go to the actions menu, I like to turn on my drawing guide so I have some grids there to work from. And let me just go ahead and choose black. And I'm going to use my new brush set that I just released. So a little plug there for that. And this, I'm going to start out by using my So Faux pencil because this is for faux calligraphy. So if you're not familiar with what faux calligraphy is, it's when you do brush calligraphy, right? Like if you have a regular brush, let me just pick this one. When you do thin pressure, you have a thin line, and when you do heavy pressure, you have a thicker line. So if you're not familiar with or comfortable with doing that type of calligraphy, or if you don't have an Apple Pencil, because currently Apple Pencil is the only stylus that has the pressure sensitivity availability within Procreate. So if you don't have that, whoops, let me go on a new layer here. Faux calligraphy is where you actually just hand draw in the thick downstrokes. But I made a pen for this for myself. So let me go ahead and lower the opacity to about halfway. And I'm just going to kind of letter out the word joy. And this is really light for a reason because I might go over it a couple times if I have other ideas of how I want to change things or move things around. So for example, let me add a new layer and I'll make it a little bit darker now. And instead of the exit stroke going up into the O, I might just have it kind of curl around and fill in this empty area right here. So something like that. And then I'll move the O over just a tad bit closer to the J. And then the Y. I'll probably do the same thing I did with the J, where I just did a little swoosh, swoopy, and maybe we'll even curl that up a little bit more so it's not identical, something like that. And let's curl this one up a little bit. But now I feel like this is too empty right here. And I wasn't gonna have an entrance stroke for the J, but because there I have little curl flourishes in the middle and at the end, I feel like I should have one at the beginning too. So I'm just going to add in maybe a curl there, like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna put it up to full opacity and just trace over that. Using light pressure for the thin lines and heavy pressure for the thick lines. Okay, now I can delete those other two. Whoops. Okay, and that's just leaving me with this one here. So now what I do is I go in and I'm going to use like a monoline brush just to trace over that. So let me lower the opacity a little bit and add a new layer. And in this brush pack, I have it's called Color from Monoline, but if you're on black, it's not going to use the color changing capability. It's just going to stay black. And that is too thick, so let's go down to like a size 3 is good. So I'm just going to trace over what I already have there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's not forget that swoosh there. I use undo a lot. Okay, and then the Y. I have naturally shaky hands, so there are settings within this brush if your hands are shaky like mine, and if you want more straighter lines, you can go into this streamline and change that. But just for this tutorial, I'm just gonna leave this as is. Okay. So now that I have that word joy, I can go ahead and delete that. But looking at this, I'm not crazy about how this Y is here. So I'm just gonna go in and erase that to make it a little bit closer. So I'm gonna go to select and under freehand, and I'm just gonna kind of trace around that and go to the transform tool and move that over a little bit. And then if I go back, I can just finish kind of drawing that in there. There, I think it should have connected a little bit lower, but for that, we are good. So now let's add another layer for the word choose. And if we look back at our thing, the style we're going for, we're using faux calligraphy, but the style is mix our lettering style with block capital letters. So for that, I'm choosing to write the word choose in block capital letters in a new layer. So I'm gonna maybe do like 3 boxes high here. And again, I could be using my faux calligraphy brush for this, but I'm just gonna go straight for the monoline here and see what happens after. We might have to trace over again if it doesn't come out how we like. Okay, so I have the word choose, and I want this to kind of fit within like an invisible square. So I'm gonna increase the size of choose a little bit. So it's kind of lined up on the left and right with the word joy. And you see how was that blue line there? If you have down here, if you're on your arrow adjustments, if you turn on snapping and if you turn on magnetics and snapping, that will help you give you those guidelines. So you see right there, it's snapped to let me know with that blue line that it's lined up with that Y right there. Okay. So now, I mean, I could also have the block letters in that style as well. So I'm gonna just add a new layer to see maybe what that might look like. Just by drawing them in. And if you're not sure where to add these for your foligraphy, you can use that foligraphy brush, like kind of use that as a cheater. But if you don't have a brush, Apple Pencil that is pressure sensitive, you're just going to put these thick strokes wherever the pen is moving towards you. So if you were to, you know, air trace this C, you're going to start here, move up, and as you start to move down, as the pen's moving towards you, you're going to get thicker, and as you're going up and around and moving away from you, you're going to go thinner. So that's kind of how you would do the little foligraphy there. So if I like this, let's see, I'm going to merge those two, turn the opacity down, and retrace that in a new layer because some of the lines were thicker than others, and I just kind of want a little bit more consistency with that. So I'm going to trace over. Okay, and now I can delete that layer. So now I have my Choose Joy, and let's go ahead and, I mean, I like how that is, so I'm gonna go ahead and merge those two together and then move, I'm gonna resize this a little bit and move it to the center of my canvas. And now I can turn off the drawing guide because what's left is just coloring it and adding some accents. So next I will go in, I'm still on my colorful monoline, but let me show you what happens if I choose a color. So if I choose this blue and add a new layer, I'm gonna turn this brush up a little bit. It does two things. One thing it does is it changes color with added pressure. So if I'm doing light pressure up and heavy pressure down, you can see that that switches colors depending on your pressure. So I can go light up, heavy down, light pressure up, heavy pressure down. Wherever I want to change the color, I can just change the pressure. So if I wanted to keep it that pink color, I'll just keep it this hard pressure. But if I want to keep it the blue color, I'll just keep it on light pressure. And so this is what it might look with another color. And I did tell you that it does two things. So one thing it does is changes color with pressure. The second thing that it does is it varies the hue a little bit every time you pick up your brush and do a new stroke. And it only varies, I think I have it set to like 25%. So you won't get blues and greens, you'll get only 25% within this pink hue. So now I did that stroke. Now I'm gonna lift my pen up and do another stroke, and we might get a little variation. There's not much variation there, but if you keep going, so now you can start to see that this light orange is more of a yellow and the pink is more of a coral. And now here, that light orange is a little bit of a darker orange. So if I pick a color that has a little bit more vibrancy in it, like this blue, for example, you can really see the difference. That pink was a little bit muted, so you weren't getting a big difference between every time you picked up your pen and did a new stroke. But here, you can start to see each time I pick up, the blue hue is changing as well as the pink hue is changing. So that's the second thing that this does. So I like to use this brush when I am creating like gradients within my letters. So let me show you what I mean by that. I am going to color in these empty open spaces. And I'm gonna do that in a new layer, but I'm gonna move the layer beneath the lines so the colors show up beneath. And let me go and choose, no pun intended. Let's go with the green, because I think that's good for spring. And I'm gonna start out light and increase my pressure, and then I can release it to be light again to kind of get that light green, dark green, light green. And if I lift my pen up and try to put it down again, I might get a different variation. If not, you can do the 2-finger tap to undo and try again. I like to have maybe just a little bit of blue in there too. So I'm gonna do that again, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, and then maybe add, see if I can get that color again. That's pretty good. And I'm doing this outside the lines, but I will show you how we can easily fix that when we're done. So I want some maybe blue in there. There we go, a little bit of blue. And I keep just making marks until it comes up with the color I want. Because every time you do a new mark, it's going to have a different color. Just try to get maybe dark blue in there. Okay. Now, I'm not crazy about the lines that you can see, so I'm going to blur this a little bit, so the colors kind of merge together. But if I just go and blur this on its own, it's going to blur kind of outside the confines of the design, which I don't want. So I want to keep everything within what I put down already. So this might not make sense the way I'm saying it, but if you go to your layers and choose Alpha Lock and then go to Gaussian Blur and blur that, it's not going to blur outside of what the colors you put down. It's just going to blur a little bit of the colors on the inside. So the more you turn up, the more blurred it gets, and then it all eventually becomes like one color. So I won't go too much. I'm just gonna go a little bit, like 7%, okay? And then let's just leave that out of line like it is now. And let's go for Joy. Let's go with the purple one. And we're gonna do, in a new layer, we're gonna do the same thing that we did with up here. There's some yellow, and there's some purple. And let's not forget our little dot here. There we go, some yellow. Okay, now let's go and alpha lock this layer. Gaussian blur it. About 7% looks good. And we can combine these two layers now. And what I want to do now is I could sit here and go and erase all of this. Depending on, you know, your mood or your vibe, it depends. If I want to just take my time with something and really relax and just kind of enjoy the process of making something, I would go in and use the eraser like that. But for the sake of time and efficiency, here's how you can get rid of those extra spaces. If we go to the original one, and if we go to selection tool, this time we're gonna, instead of freehand, we're gonna go to automatic, and we're just gonna tap inside each of those spaces. So we're telling Procreate, choose these spaces. But now we're gonna tell Procreate to invert, because I actually want it to choose everything outside of what I just selected. So invert. And now that that's selected, you can tell by the diagonal lines, I'm gonna go back to the layer that the color is on and choose clear. So then that kind of got rid of coloring outside the lines. Let me turn off my color palette here. So that's kind of, you know, looking a little bit cute and spring colors. But now let's say I want to add, what was the accent is sparkles. Okay, so to add some sparkles, there's a couple things I could do. I might just want to use some sparkles to fill in some white areas, or I could actually put some sparkles maybe inside the letters to give them like a little inline design, or I can just like sparkle the whole background. There's so many things you could do. And that's what's fun about these prompts, is they're really just guidelines, you know, to give you ideas to get you thinking. You hear my dog in the background. So within my brush set, I do have these decorative accents, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 sparkles here, a diamond. These maybe could be sparkles, these stars. You can even use a dot as a sparkle if you want. But I do have this sparkly one that, let's see if I choose maybe like orange. I mean, you could do something like that in the background. That would be sparkles, but I think I'm just gonna go for the individual ones. So let me go up and choose, let's choose this sparkle, this open sparkle. And I'm gonna go with yellow. See how that looks. Let me choose a different sparkle because it's not showing up too well with the yellow. So I might do one there and change the size a little bit. I like to change the size as I go so they're not all the same size. And I usually do 3 of each just to keep it an uneven number. And let's try this sparkle. Where do I want this one? Maybe like up here. And you could change colors and have a different color for each sparkle if you like. Maybe I'll go with orange for this one because this one's really light. It doesn't come up really dark on the paper, on the canvas, I mean. And let's do just the dot. But you know what? Because I have the black outline, I'm gonna choose black just to tie the black outline into some of the sparkles so it looks more cohesive. And maybe I could even add a dot to tie in the dots to each of these. Maybe we'll add a dot to the end of that. But let me erase this one because that was too close. Maybe erase that one, move one down here, or like I need a sparkle right here. So let's go back to our sparkle brush. Actually, let's pick one that's not nearby and a different size. Okay, so I think that looks pretty cute. I mean, I could sit here and fiddle with this for hours and maybe go in and add some more to it depending on you know, how, let me try to find a pen here, depending on how much detail I want to this. I could even go in and add some maybe highlights to it. You know, they suggested the sparkles as the accent, but like I said, these are just suggestions. You don't absolutely have to stick to this. You can go in and add as much or as little as you like. It's just to give you some ideas. And also, if you go back and look down, I have to go take my dog out, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But if we go back to the idea generator, if you go up or down the page, you can see that there's more project ideas here, and you can enroll in their Lovely University, which is like a membership. So Lovely Loops has amazing, amazing classes, and they have tons of classes on lettering, calligraphy, Spencerian, copper plates, faux lithography, all kinds of lithographies. And they have separate courses, but their university is where you can get access to 16 of their courses. And you also get, you know, the private community, everything. And right now it's 40% off. This ends today. So it's $29 a month. Or you could also just go to their store and find individual classes. Like if you're not ready to like spend that, or they're new to you and you're not familiar with them, if you like their teaching style or whatever, you could easily just do one of their classes. So that's not clickable there. And go to that little L right there. That is going to take you to there. You can see I take several of their courses. So these are just courses that I am enrolled in from them. But you can get individual courses set up through them. And if you go here to all products, it will show you all the things that are available, whether you're a beginner, you want to do brush lettering, lettering projects. Here's faux calligraphy, here's flourishing. There's ways if you want to find your own style. So they have lots of different courses that are available if you just want to take a one-time course, or even just one of their free courses. So if you're new to, say, Procreate lettering, the ABCs of Procreate is the iPad Calligraphy Basics is the free course for doing lettering in Procreate. Or if you already do lettering in Procreate and you want to start selling some of your own lettering brushes, there's a course for that. So there's lots of courses available from them. And you can see if I go to my products, I do take several of their courses. So like I said, I don't ever recommend things that I don't really, really love. So that's a good deal they have going on. But you know, you're under no obligation to do that at all. You can just use this generator until your heart is content. And I think it's a really nice free resource that they've gifted us with. So I hope you have fun using it. Happy hand lettering.